Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and would you believe it? We don't have enough immigrants in the UK. Odd that, isn't it? Because all those Brexiteers kept on saying the opposite. But in this video, I'll be discussing how the reality is about to bite us on the arse. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please click the subscribe button and then the bell notification icon. So, the farming industry is in a bit of a mess at the moment, as is the government's response to it. Boris Johnson had already thrown these Brexit voters under the bus by announcing that the subsidies that British farmers get as a result of EU membership would not be continued outside of the EU for more than a year, being phased out completely within a few years. Then there was the issue of staffing. So farmers rely on tens of thousands of seasonal workers to pick fruit and veg, amongst other things. And these workers have tended to be migrants from other EU countries, with a number of farms saying they simply do not get enough British workers applying for these jobs. And when I say don't get enough, some very large farming groups have said like one in the last few years. And then that person quit after one day. Now, then the farms found themselves getting fewer migrant workers applying as well because of the hostile attitude to foreigners in the UK since the Brexit referendum. Something that has also chased out thousands of EU doctors and nurses from the NHS as well. Good job there isn't a staff shortage in the NHS of in excess of 100,000. Oh, and it's also a good job we don't have a particularly high demand on our health service right now, isn't it? Finally, the government then announced immigration plans that would mean that even the fewer numbers of EU migrants who were applying to work on British farms would not be allowed to. Well, at this point, the farming industry effectively went into meltdown. It was also leaked, as if that weren't bad enough, that the government were asking if it would harm the economy if they just let British farming completely collapse, with the answer coming back, actually, it's no big deal, knock yourself out. So if farmers were thinking, well, we're going to have to make exceptions to these immigration plans for us, all of a sudden now they were getting the view, oh, actually, the government are planning on just dropping British farming altogether. Okay, this isn't good. That's not good at all. So with the UK basically on a path to a hard Brexit, where getting food supplies into the country would be extra difficult and for some foods impossible due to the delays at the borders, the government were also taking active steps to reduce the amount of food we could produce for ourselves. And if you thought the current panic buying was emptying shelves, wait to see what it'd be like when we've got a hit to supply as well as an increased demand. So now, just when you thought the situation couldn't get any more ludicrous, we're getting a taste of what those dumb as hell immigration plans would do to our farming. Because those EU migrants, who could still technically, legally work on British farms because those immigration plans haven't been put into effect, we're still in the transition period, they're unable to come over now due to travel restrictions in their own country caused by this pandemic. It's very, very difficult, even for those who would be willing to come over and do that work, to do so. I say we're in the middle of a pandemic there. I should actually just clarify, I hope we're in the middle of it. So what now? Basically, farmers are saying we need a huge labour force to be mobilised to keep their farms going. DEFRA, which is the government department which looks after, amongst other things, farming, is putting on a drive, it says, to try and get people to sign up for this work. Now, this would include, in their plans, students who find themselves with an early summer break, as well as those who've lost their jobs in hospitality or other similarly hit sectors of British commerce. And that would be a really good early test for what Brexit would bring, wouldn't it? Not just in terms of whether those farms can get enough people. Are there enough British people who'd be able to do these jobs and be willing to do these jobs? One major problem I've talked about in the past is location. So we need about 90,000 people to do these jobs. Now, let's say there were 90,000 people in the UK who'd be willing to do it. Problem solved. No, not at all. It's no good if they don't live near these farms. And the thing about farms is they tend to be fairly rural areas. So you don't get a lot of people living in those sort of areas. So it's no good if the people who would be up for this work, if they live nowhere near the farms that need them. The other instructive element will be productivity. Now, the work is backbreaking, and many people in the UK are simply not physically up to the challenge of it. It requires a level of fitness. It's quite remarkable in many ways. So you'd need more British workers to do the same job. So in reality, we'd need more than 90,000, I'm guessing. We know this from experiments done in the past, where you've done little experiments where you've got a group of young British, out of work people to do the work, and they're willing, not begrudgingly, they're up for it, and they just can't do it quickly enough. It's physically very, very demanding. But of course, we will get a much larger scale experiment going on this year. That is assuming, of course, that the farms can even attract the workers willing to do it. If they can't, it's on to plan B, which some farmers have already tried enacting anyway, because the bottom line is you need 90,000 such workers. Many farms do not think it's feasible to source them here in the UK. At the end of the day, they haven't been able to before. Why would they suddenly be able to do it now? And chartering flights to bring in workers from Eastern Europe seems to be the plan B. In fact, some farms have already tried doing that, and some have been able to if they got in early enough. Some of them have struggled now because as each of these individual countries goes into lockdown, I gather Bulgaria is the last shining, in fact the word beacon was used, of hope. But they are saying, these farms now, in order to be able to do this, they're going to need the government to step in, because those travel restrictions are coming in place in other countries. Flights are grounded. They can't do it privately. I also suspect they'd rather the government did it anyway, because it's costing quite a lot of money to charter a flight to bring people from another country. So there's only a few weeks left as well before these people are needed, by the way. This isn't a problem the government have got time to think through and implement. There's a few weeks. Next month they're needed. And after which, if they're not there, we will effectively be wasting food. That problem is not solved. So it looks very much like this summer we are going to be getting a spectacular lesson in just how much the UK relies upon migrant labour. I wonder what the country at large will make of such a lesson. So I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.